welcome back to Mind Trace. In this podcast, we'll get into the psychology behind the darker side of human behavior. I'm your host, Ari.
And I'm your other host, AC. Today we're diving into a chilling topic, the connection between childhood abuse and serial killing. We're looking at a study that tracks the experiences of 233 serial killers and explores how their early trauma influenced the violence that they eventually committed.
Okay, now see. This study uses behavior sequence analysis to connect the types of abuse these killers experience with their murder typologies. See, now what's interesting is that the type of abuse actually seems to correlate with how they kill. For instance, those who were sexually abused were likely to commit murders linked to power and control, while those who experienced physical abuse often displayed anger in their killings.
So sexual abuse leads to power-based killings, and physical abuse leads to anger-based ones? That's pretty specific. How do they know this?
Not that, this certain abuse leads to that certain outcome, It's more it's just what the researchers found. So the researchers broke down the killers into groups based on their abuse history. For example, individuals who experienced sexual abuse often fell into a power typology, which were, to put it, it's killers who enjoy exerting control over victims. While, on the other hand, those who were physically abused were more likely to exhibit anger in their killings. Think of those who lash out in violent ways, which are driven by frustration.
Got it. So people who suffered from physical abuse might lash out in a brutal way, almost as if they're unleashing their own anger. But what about when both physical and sexual abuse are involved?
See, that's where it gets more disturbing. A combination of these abuses, so sexual, physical, and psychological abuse, often led to a rape and lust typology, which was more common in the study. These killers were more likely to torture their victims, let's say leaving them bound or even mutilated. The presence of sexual abuse especially created a higher likelihood of torturing victims before killing them.
Wait, so these killers are torturing their victims? That's pretty dark. Why does that link to sexual abuse specifically?
It's all about maybe control and humiliation, no? Think about it. It's people who experience sexual abuse often suffer a loss of control over their own bodies. Maybe as a way of coping or regaining control, they may later engage in acts of domination and humiliation. Think about it. The study even shows that the more severe the abuse, the more brutal the killing, such as overkill and dismemberment. It's so sad. These killers, especially in a rape lust group, would often leave the bodies at a crime scene as a way to maintain power over their victim, even after death.
That makes sense now. It's about power, control, and even revenge, trying to regain what was taken from them. So how does psychological abuse factor into all of this?
Oh, well, actually, psychological abuse shows different patterns. So the killers who experienced psychological abuse often had motives surrounding financial gain. Yeah, interesting, huh? These are the kind of killers who kill, quickly with no or little to no torture involved. They don't take their time with the murder. It's efficient, almost clinical. There's also a link to mutilating the body, though it's less pronounced than compared to a sexual abuse case.
Wait, so people who were psychologically abused are more likely to kill for money, and they do it quickly?
It's yes, according to the study, financial gain becomes a primary motivator. These killers act fast and often leave the crime scene without much fanfare. But if sexual abuse was involved as well, we see a shift towards a more brutal and sadistic form of murder, for sure.
I see now. The combination of different abuse types creates different types of killers. So what happens when all three of the forms of abuse, sexual, physical, and psychological, are combined?
Okay, so ultimately when all three types of abuse are experienced, the rape and lust typology is the most likely outcome. These killers were more prone to torturing their victims, binding them, and using overkill. But what's striking is that they weren't always quick about it. The act of binding the victim, for example, shows that these killers were focused on controlling their victims.
So it's not just abuse that makes these killers more violent. It also shapes the method of their violence, whether it's about control, speed, or humiliation.
Yes, exactly. And that is why it is so crucial to understand the background and trauma of these individuals. It's not just for criminal profiling, but for early intervention. If we could recognize these patterns in childhood or adolescence, we maybe are able to prevent these violent tendencies.
That's a big takeaway. It's not just about why these people kill, but about understanding their motivation and methods before it's too late. Early intervention really could be the key to stopping these violent patterns from becoming deadly.
Right. If we catch these signs early, like if a child experiencing severe trauma, we might have a better chance of preventing the violence from escalating later in life.
Well, that's a pretty sobering thought, but it's important to recognize and address these factors in the real world.
100%. Now, our dear risk mind tracers, if you want to dive deeper into the details of the study, we'll have the link to the research in the description. The title is A Behavior Sequence Analysis of Serial Killers' Lives from Childhood Abuse to Methods of Murder. It's definitely worth a closer look, or at least from my opinion.
And if you found this discussion as eye-opening as we did, or if you just want to keep exploring the human mind, make sure to subscribe, rate, and share Mind Trace with your friends.
Until next time, now, stay curious, stay thoughtful, and last but not least, keep tracing the mind.